Welcome back to another episode of the Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast. I am here with Stephanie Dalfonzo. Stephanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I was so looking forward to hanging out with you today.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you here on the show. We've become great friends from the moment we first met. And so I want to share you with my audience and to just introduce you to the audience. Stephanie is celebrity radio DJ Stevie Knox turned integrative hypnotist, anxiety expert, speaker, and author of Goodbye Anxiety, Hello Freedom. I love the name of that book.
Thank you.
She uses traditional approaches to stress, anxiety, and sleep issues are no longer enough. And because of Stephanie's own struggles with anxiety and sleep issues, she has spent over 20 years researching anxiety and how it affects every part of our daily life. So let's just start right there with your story. How you came to be helping others as a result of your own struggles.
Yeah, like, wait a minute. You were a celebrity radio DJ and now you do what? And trust me, it was never like, okay, this is how I see my life going. But when I did my last radio show, it was the morning show. And so I was getting up at like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I had two small kids, a husband who traveled, and surprise, insomnia came for a visit. And it was horrible. Anybody who's listening who's ever experienced insomnia, see, I even stumble over the word. That word just can send people into a panic because that was just like, oh my gosh, right? I found myself smashing a bag of Cheetos because I just, I wasn't sleeping. I couldn't function. I didn't know what else to do. So that was my wake up call, was like, okay, I'm smashing a bag of Cheetos as my kids are crying because, there goes their special treat. So I went to the doctor, like, most of us would do. We go to the doctor to get a prescription. Oh, well, first of all, I found out, well, that's because of your anxiety, which at this point, Melissa, I had spent the first half of my life struggling with anxiety and not knowing it. No one ever said, oh, no, it's not normal for you to be worrying about the worst case scenario all the time. It's not normal for you to walk around with your ears up like earrings. So, okay, that was a wake up call. So great, medication, it helped for a short time and then it stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And that just sent me into even more of a tailspin because, okay, now I was relying on this. What do I do now? So this was back in the 90s. And again, we didn't have Google or AI or any of that. So, I couldn't just go online and get answers. So I started going to the library and checking out if anybody remembers cassette tapes. There wasn't the kind of research that we have now, but I was just desperate to try and find something. And, as the universe conspires in our favor, I happened to be on a teleclass, which in the 90s, that was like, whoa, cutting edge technology, with this Stanford trained engineer talking about how you could do this thing that's like acupuncture without needles and calm your emotions, calm your anxiety, learn how to sleep again. I was like, I've got nothing to lose. So I learned EFT tapping when Gary Craig was first rolling this out in the 90s. And it helped me learn how to sleep again. And it helped me learn how to start calming my anxiety. Well, fast forward, now I'm a stay-at-home mom. We've moved across the country from the West Coast to the East Coast, and I'm no longer on the radio. I'm, staying home, but I'm talking to people and telling them about this tapping thing I've discovered, and watching people's eyes glaze over, like, okay, she's really lost her mind, because nobody really knew about tapping yet, right? So in this hiatus of, okay, I'm going to be home with my kids, my husband went into liver failure for the first of many, many times, which was such a major turning point for both of us. I got that middle of the night phone call, 2 a.m. Your husband's in a ditch. He's driven off the road in a ditch, and we didn't know why. And it was, again, the first of over a dozen times going into liver failure until he thankfully finally got a life-saving liver transplant, which was a miracle in itself. First of all, the amount of people that are on a list to get a transplant is incredible here in the States. But the deeper like miracle of this was he was not the designated recipient, Melissa. He was the backup. They always have a
Wow.
backup person in case the designated recipient, something we don't know what happened, they were unable to receive it. So
Right.
he was the backup. That was like such a miracle. So in this in between time before he got the transplant, I'm like, oh, great. There's a very good chance my husband's going to die. My kids are still young. I'm now not on the radio. So how am I going to support myself and my kids?
Mhm.
And I started as training as a life coach. But then I heard this whisper of, you really need to go learn hypnosis. And the first day I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm meant to do. Because I realized that the answer was not outside me in a pill, a potion, a guru, or a self help book. Oh my gosh, the answers are in me. They're in here in my
Yes.
beautiful brain. I
Yes.
need to learn how to harness it.
Yes.
And over 20 years later, it just, keeps getting better and better. You understand, I know you understand this because we talk the same language here, but we all come at it from a different perspective, a different angle.
And I love that you were listening to your whispers and following that direction because you were simply being guided into what you were always meant to do.
Right. But I didn't know. It's interesting because I didn't realize at the time that that's what I was doing. I didn't really know
Right.
about intuition and I didn't know about listening to my inner wisdom. I just was flying by the seat of my pants. Then with hindsight being 2020, then I could look back and go, oh, wow. I just intuitively, I just naturally knew, ooh, listen to this whisper and it's going to guide me where I want to go.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think many of us kind of fall into our intuition that way as well because we've been programmed, especially if we've ever had any part of the corporate world, we've been programmed to not listen to our intuition.
Yeah.
And so we kind of forget about it and we think that it's not anything that's particularly useful. So we'll just keep being in our do world over here, following what we're supposed to be doing, etc., until something happens. And for me, it was, losing my job. And then once I was out of that job, I was like, oh, what am I going to do now? And I kind of just went, I'm open to being guided, show me the way. And I just kept putting one foot in front of the other and landed
And
here.
you could have instead chosen to go sit and cry in the corner, but you didn't, right? That's the
Exactly.
thing that when we listen to our intuition, when we open up to possibilities, instead of seeing that door being slammed shut of now you no longer have this corporate job, even if you just crack the door a little tiny bit, it opens up to possibilities.
It does. And that's what I truly love about all the learning I've had in the last 9 years since that happened. And, we hear the one door closes, another door opens. And I'd heard that and I chose to go with that. And then that allowed me to keep putting that one foot in front of the other and open up to the possibilities and be excited about that. And I will often say, we can live on Victim Island or we can choose to move to Solution City. And all
Yes.
those possibilities are over there in Solution City. And we just have to be willing to open up to it. And
Well,
our
and for your
intuition will
listeners,
guide us there.
who aren't there yet with trusting it and knowing it, I would really like encourage you to just break it down into the smallest thing where, all right,
Mm.
I don't know what they're talking about with these whispers, but all right, let me at least explore it and just open up to the possibility in the next couple of days, in the next 7 days, listening to, well, okay, and following that voice and seeing what happens. But just starting with that little baby step. And then, boy, once my experience, not just with myself, but with my clients too, is that once we crack open that door and then decide to peek our head through or actually take a step through, then it just keeps opening more and more doors.
Absolutely. And the piece of that is just get a little bit curious. And that's
Yeah.
what gets you to open that door just a little bit.
Yes.
Curious that there might be something else for you. What if there's
Right.
this amazing opportunity out there? And just get curious and open the door and see where it goes. And so I love this because, our thoughts, that's the theme for this month, thoughts and toxins. And today with you, we're talking about thoughts and the power of our mind. which of course is why you love hypnosis, why I love hypnosis. And to your point, that the answers are all inside,
Yes. Yes.
right here.
And talking about your thoughts, oh my gosh, we can spend days and weeks talking about this because our thoughts create our life.
Yes.
Period, paragraph, like end, stop. But people really don't understand that. And last night I do my monthly self-hypnosis free masterclass, and it was last night. And someone who is pretty advanced on this journey was on the call with me, and she was saying something. And I said, please understand that this is coming with total love from my heart. But you just said, blah, blah, blah. And from absolute love from my heart, that's a limiting belief, isn't it? And it was like, you're right. Because so many times, even when we know this, we say things and we don't hear what we're saying. We can easily hear when somebody else is saying a limiting
Yes.
belief. But a lot of times, I will say things and my best friend will call me on it, and she'll be like, what would you say to a client? Like, oh, okay, you got me. Because what we say truly creates our reality. We can go all the way back to Buddha 2000 years ago or longer. Our thoughts become reality, right?
Mhm.
And we can go to all these different quotes about how our thoughts matter. But I was like, all right, is that really true? It is true. And if I could just take that into where our thoughts, as far as like weight, right? Because
Mhm.
I have dropped and kept off more than 50 pounds, which I am thrilled to say.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I
Woohoo.
became my own client, right?
Yay.
You will never hear me say I lost more than
Mhm.
50 pounds. Because what happens when we lose our keys? Oh, we're going to run everywhere until we
Yeah.
find them.
The unconscious mind wants to go find it. Yeah.
And I do not want to find even one of those pounds, right? So I dropped the weight and have kept it off. But affirmations, I have a little thing on affirmations in my book, and I say affirmations don't work. And it shocks people, but here's why. When I was just over 200 pounds, if I looked in the mirror and I was like, I easily maintain my ideal size and weight, everything in me was saying, oh yeah, look in the mirror, look at the size of your clothes, right? There was that pushback. So instead, what I talk about is, instead of these affirmations, which give plenty of things to push back on, turn it into an affirmation, which is by Noah St. John. He has a book on it, and it's really simple. It's turning it into a question. Why is it so easy for me to drop the weight and keep it off? And that's his thing, right? Just ask the question, put it out there. Let your mind, which is still more powerful than any AI they've created yet,
Mhm.
let your mind go out there like a Google search and find, why is it so easy? And you will start to see things, right? Oh, okay. I'm married to an Italian with the last name of Dalfonzo. You got to
Yeah.
know I have to make pasta, right? Pasta is not great for my body. So I make pasta. I give my husband a big bowl of pasta, and I give myself a big bowl of salad and a small thing of pasta, and it works. But it's instead of, this is the absolute, right? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, turn it into a question. And for somebody who might still be skeptical and thinking, all right, how could that work? I wrote a blog about this years ago because it's so powerful. I can tell you all day long how it's worked in my life. But my son, who has always called me the woo-woo crackpot because he doesn't believe any of this stuff. He graduates from college, top of his class, Eagle Scout. He graduated without a job. 2 months later, do you have anything that can help me maybe try and find a job? And well, let me tell you about the affirmations. And so he was hanging out in Starbucks those days for the free Wi-Fi and the free refills. He sends me pictures a couple of hours later of, he's written out the question, why is it so easy for me to find the ideal job? Then he filled up pages and pages of why it was so easy. Now, that wasn't how I told him to do it, and I wasn't going to tell him he was wrong. And he found a great job within 2 to 3 weeks. Like, this coming from somebody who's like, woo-woo crackpot, this stuff can't work. So I think it's more powerful to your listeners to hear when somebody's like, yeah, that can't possibly work. And then it does,
Yes.
right? You got nothing to lose except for whatever those limiting beliefs are that you've been dragging around anyway, right?
Mm-hmm. And the other piece that I want to add to why the affirmations are going to work rather than the affirmations is because when you ask that question, as you said, our unconscious mind will then go and find the resources it needs in order for you to be able to achieve whatever it is you're asking in the question.
Yes.
Our conscious mind is our goal setter. That's where it decides what we want to do. And then we leave it to the unconscious mind to go and get that goal. It's
Yes.
the 90%. The conscious mind is only the 10%. So when we leave it to the unconscious mind, we've got 90% of our mind working on going and finding the resources needed in
Right.
order for us to be able to achieve that affirmation. So
And
I
and,
love
and
that twist on
coming
the word.
and coming out of the I know mentality, right? That's been a big one for
Yes.
me of, oh, I don't know. Because when I come from a place of I don't know, I'm open to possibilities that I might not be able to see out
Yes.
here,
Absolutely.
right? So,
Absolutely. And that's that curious piece again, right? Getting
yes,
curious. And how can
yeah,
any one of us ever know everything? There's so much information in this world. I remember reading The Mindset by Carol Dweck, and that was the first time when I kind of, had it put in print for me. No one of us can ever know everything. We can't be
right.
an expert in everything. So we become an expert in our field, and then we work with others who are experts in their fields, and we can all rise up together.
Yes.
And
Oh,
that
yes.
place, we never stop learning. And so, in my world, I jokingly say, well, you're not done until you, because if you're done, you're dead, right?
Right.
Throughout life, keep learning.
Yeah.
And when you're in that learning mode, you're curious.
And until I take my last breath, I will be learning and I will continue to say, I don't know. I
Yes.
don't know. And I've not always been in that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I will,
Totally.
truly raise my hand to that and say, no, I wasn't always in that mindset.
Mm-hmm. And
But
I'm the same.
now, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm exactly the same. And it was that book that taught me that it was absolutely okay to show up and say, I don't know, but let
Yeah.
me find out for you.
Yeah. But until that shift for me, Melissa,
Mm-hmm.
it was, it was definitely not just conscious mind, it was ego mind
Mm-hmm.
of, I know, I know. Well, you know what? I am much more proud to say I don't know now because I've understood that when I say I don't know, all these things can come to me that I wasn't able to see when I knew it all, right? But
Yes.
there's 8 billion people on this planet. It took the universe, 13.8 billion years to get us to this point. And as Michael Singer has said, who I adore, if you're not aware of his teachings, you want to look up The Untethered Soul.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about 8 billion people. The universe has been 13.8 billion years. And we think we know how things are supposed to be. That's absurd.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it is. Right. So I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
but I can learn.
Yes. And I can find out. Exactly.
Yeah.
I love that. We could talk for hours just on this alone. However, I want to bring you back to your husband's healing story because you mentioned his liver transplant. However, I know there's more. So I would love for you to share that with the audience as well, because so much of what I love to do in this podcast is give people hope, give people
Yes.
inspiration, let them
And
know that if someone else has done it, they can do it too. And that
and this
changes
is,
their thoughts.
thank you. Mwah, thank you. Because this is why my husband and I have talked about this, that I feel it's so important for us to share this, because if it helps one person,
Exactly.
then we've done something good in the world. So my husband has experienced, he must be a cat with 9 lives because he has experienced multiple medical mystery miracles. Now, up until the transplant, from when I got that first phone call until the transplant, he was in and out of liver failure 12 to 15 times. Each time he went into liver failure, he was this close to being dead, right? And thank you, the divine, the universe, whoever you want to call it, gave me the direction of how to be able to help him back, how to take the medication and bring him back from the brink. So we did this repeatedly. And then this miracle of he's the backup and he gets the transplant. The doctor afterwards was like, you're the poster child for a successful transplant. He's been through other medical mysteries. In 2018, he was given a fatal cancer diagnosis. Like he had a 25% chance with treatment of being alive in a year. He was going to be dead in 2 years. And that was in 2018. It's now 2024. And he's sitting out on the deck, right? He's healthy. But so we had more other things that were not as big, but still these medical mystery miracles. And then just recently, he had yet another one where in March, he was, robust. He was, really active. You could see on his phone. Finally, we had him show the doctor. I said, show him your phone. So he's over 10,000 steps, And then this big dip, like all of a sudden, his energy was just gone. Right. They can't find out what. There's test after test after test. So finally they get this one test and it's like, warning, danger. Oh my gosh. So we go into the hospital last week expecting he was going to get stents, possible bypass. So they were going to crack his chest open. Well, if it's 70% blockage, we're going to have to do the bypass. And like, okay, we've surrendered ourselves to, if this is what needs to be done. The cardiologist was not prepared to go in there and find that not only was there not like 70%, which is then it's got to be a bypass, there was so little in there that they couldn't even put a percentage to it. And like, that was like, wait, what just happened here? But then his energy, he is back to where he was months ago without any kind of interventions other than they did this little scope. They, did this thing to take a look, but they did not do any procedures on him. So much of this is his mindset. My husband always, and he's never really, until the cancer miracle in 2018, he's always been very supportive of what I do, but he never really embraced it because, it's that woo-woo stuff. But, when he got the cancer diagnosis, it was like, all right, what have you got? And we brought out the kitchen sink. He has this miracle. So he never doubted that he wasn't going to get the transplant. He never doubted that he wasn't going to die of cancer. And then with this latest thing, again, he never doubted. He never thought, okay, well, my luck's run out. He always kept that positive mindset. And please, listeners, I am not saying a positive mindset alone is going to cure. And Melissa and I do not diagnose, prescribe, or treat anything, right? So I am not saying that any one thing, your mindset, wild blueberries, which I'm a big fan of and would highly recommend anybody listening, go Google wild blueberries and medical medium, because they are a superfood, if not the superfood. But he never believed that these illnesses were going to take him out. Mm-hmm. And I am not saying, please, I can't say it strongly enough, I am not saying that alone is what happened. I do believe in miracles. We've had too many of them not to. It doesn't matter if you want to call it a coincidence or whatever. It doesn't matter. The upshot of it is miracles, or whatever you want to call them, are possible, and they do happen all the time.
Absolutely. And I think while the mindset isn't the only thing, it's the starting point. Because when you have that mindset, then you are open to taking action on your healing journey and looking at alternative options, looking at more than just one thing, as opposed to being stuck in woe is me, or just looking at statistics that you might hear from the doctor, which take you down and have you being in this negative place and having that run through your mind.
Probably about 15 years ago, I was surprised. Somebody that we were friendly with, but we weren't close friends with. The first person after his wife he told this information I'm about to share was me. And I was really surprised about this. He came to me and said, I've been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. and they've told me I have 3 months to live. And at that point, he'd given up. He
Hmm.
had given up, and I threw myself into doing everything I could for him, for his wife. I was really, intimately involved, and my husband was involved with, the men's side of trying to, bolster the guy. And months after he passed, I think the greatest gift I ever gave his wife was telling him there was nothing you could do, because as soon as he heard that diagnosis, he gave up.
Yeah.
And I'm not, judging him for that,
No.
but when we give up, right? And so, again, Michael and I, witnessing this so closely, have really, come to, we only for ourselves, I'm not saying for anybody else, but only for ourselves, we are committed to, if we had to make a choice between a shorter, good quality of life or a longer, not so good quality of life,
Right.
we're going to go for choice A.
Right. Totally.
Right. And not, if somebody makes a different decision, not that I think that that's wrong. It's just, our personal decision. But that was so sad to see that he gave up, but he still kept going through all the heroic measures to try and extend his life. And it ended up being, the last 3 months were really not at all
Mhm.
what he would have hoped they could be.
Right. And again, that shows the power of our own mind, the
Yeah.
power of our thoughts. What story are you running, consciously, unconsciously? And he was running the story, I'm done.
Yeah.
My time is up. And the power of our thoughts result in him passing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's so
Yeah.
important for people to know this, because you can flip this.
Yes.
You can get
Yes,
that
you can.
diagnosis and go, oh, that might be the stat for everybody else. That's not my story. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to make my own story, and I'm going to do this differently.
Yeah. Yeah. And
We can do
not,
that.
again, not being Pollyanna, not, oh, click your heels 3 times and,
No.
like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, but ex- again, opening up the door to expand to what might be possible. Because when he had this cancer diagnosis, we had, I had made an appointment with this incredible doctor who, somebody who knows both of us had said, I know 2 people who had stage 4 cancer that she brought back to full health. So but she had a very long wait list. And even after we knew the cancer was gone, like, he'd had this scan and his GP couldn't get on the phone fast enough to say, all the margins are clear. For some unknown reason, we still kept the doctor with the specialist, and he's hemming and hawing, and he's not saying anything, but you could see he's totally confused, because, he's looking at, okay, he's got this cancer and he's going to die. And then he's looking at the scan that says there's no cancer anywhere. He's like, he can't figure it out. And the doctor that we ended up not seeing because we didn't need to, their office person had told me, oh, when you go to see the specialist, don't tell them that you're taking in essential oils internally. Don't tell them that you're doing this or that, because they will say, if you do that, we won't treat you. Right?
Hmm.
If you do that, we won't treat
Right.
you. And so Michael made sure and put all of it down on the intake form, because it's not one or the other. What if we could actually bring Western medicine and complementary approaches
Absolutely.
together? I think,
Yes.
to me, that's my approach.
Yes. And I fully agree. And there is so much room for that. And we need both. And
Yes.
that's where we can have these, miracles, as you call them, that aren't really miracles. It's our mindset and choosing to look at all of the different options and bringing them together. And that's
Yeah.
what power is. And then it ends up as a miracle, which is such a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Very beautiful. I am
Yeah,
every day.
you've been through many of them.
Yes.
So yeah, so let's talk a little bit in regards to fears. And we've been talking about the mindset. Let's just touch on the anxiety, the stress, the fears that's, been a part
Okay.
of your history and how you've moved through that in your book.
All right. So a picture says 1,000 words. This is not the picture of fear, is it? Right? Here's this beautiful young woman, vibrant, about to jump out of an airplane, who came to me for her crippling fear of flying. Like, she was not getting on an airplane to go with her family. And then, I knew she'd gone on the vacation. I knew we'd gotten over that. But then I saw that on Facebook one morning. And I was like, holy moly. But it gets even better, Melissa, because she came to me when she was in college at 19. And I think she was a business major. There is no way she would have ever thought of becoming the 5-foot traveler, but she has become a very successful business as the 5-foot traveler. She would have never been able to do that if she had not decided to overcome her crippling fear of flying. On the other side of her is even more exciting, this little cutie patootie. I'm sorry for the light on there. She was maybe 11 when we worked together. Abject fear of needles. Her pediatrician has been sending me kids for 10, 15 years now. With the fear, you have a fear or you don't. There is no in between.
Right.
And so fears, in my experience, they're very easy to help somebody get over, right? So this little girl, she was maybe 11 when we worked together. I get so excited. I work mainly with adults, but when I work with young people, a little one like this or the teenager, it changes the trajectory of everything.
Yes.
So, there's a little one. The oldest person I've worked with so far was 82 years old, who had been struggling with anxiety and fear her entire life. At 82 years old, how courageous to say, I'm not going to live like this anymore. I want some help. I want to live my emotional freedom. And she did. Right? It was just remarkable to see this sweet little 82-year-old saying, I'm not going to be a captive to this anymore. So I hold her out as it's never too late.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say exactly those words. It's never too late to start. I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Yeah. Yeah. And our mind, again, it's so powerful, and all of that change, the rewiring of the neurology, etc. Again, any age, absolutely any age. We understand neuroplasticity and the ability of our mind to change, that we fend off Alzheimer's and dementia by continuing to learn, actively learn into our senior years, because our mind is a muscle. It wants to be used.
Well, and it's interesting because the neuroscientists used to think that at 25, that was it. Yep. Our brains were formed and that was it. There was no changing. And through all the technology of the fMRIs and all of that now, they've understood that, okay, well, so I'm 64 now. My mind is not quite as malleable as it was when I was 8 years old, but it is still malleable. And until we take our last breath, we can still shift it and mold it a little bit, right? So it's always possible. It is never too late. And so this keeps coming up in my mind. It's about the limiting beliefs, that so many of them come from our childhood. Mm-hmm. Because for those listeners who don't know this part of it, up until the age of about 6 or 7, it's all new information. So everything that's coming in becomes our truth. So if we're told as a child, if we are given messages about our weight or about, our looks or, our intelligence or whatever, that becomes our identity, right? We can take on behaviors from adults. I can think of an adult male who had come to me who had become deathly afraid of driving on the highway. He's like, this big strapping macho guy. And it turned out that when he was like 5 years old, he was in the back seat of the car when dad was pulling onto the highway and had a panic attack and had to pull off the road and switch seats with his wife. And this 5-year-old then unconsciously took that on as a belief that you need to be afraid to be driving on the highway. And then it got bigger and bigger as he got older and older. So again, a lot of times we think with our conscious mind, we know where this started. And, I remember Sarah, the one who was jumping out of the airplane, I remember her mother telling me, we know exactly when this started. And she's telling me this whole story. And I politely, this was when I was still seeing people in person, I politely smiled and said, maybe, maybe not. And it, of course, wasn't
Right.
where they thought it was. It was something else entirely.
Yeah.
But again, that's where, when you come from the, I don't know, but let's find out attitude, oh, then we can find it. If I had gone with the, I know, oh, it's this, so let me, focus on this, I wouldn't have been able to help her get her freedom.
Right. Because it wasn't the root of the problem.
Right. And I don't know,
Right.
but I found out. I helped her find out.
Exactly. Exactly. So I love all of this and the work that you do and sharing and educating people and helping people get out and live their best lives. It's so powerful. And that, you live your talk and help your immediate family members and anyone else beyond that that is, in need of your help. So before we get into talking about how people can reach out to you, I always love to ask my guests, what does "don't wait for your wake up call" mean to you?
To start where you are with the tiniest baby step that you feel like you can accomplish. Right? We, in our society, we're programmed to think that we have to do it bigger, we have to do it better, we have to do it harder. And I'm going to invite you to maybe just suspend that for 7 days. See if you can just put that off to the side for 7 days. And what is the smallest step you can take? And maybe it could be, oh, I keep hearing I should start a meditation practice because they say meditation is good for you. Meditation is life-changing. And it took me a long time to come to that. But when I was first introduced to meditation, they said, empty your mind. That wasn't going to happen, right? There's like all these, like, oh, you have to meditate 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes at night. At that very busy stage in my life, I wasn't going to take 20 minutes to do something for me. So, oh, if you think, well, no, I wouldn't either. What if you just took a baby step and set your timer for 60 seconds and did 1 good minute every morning to start your day? Do that for 7 days. And oh, you're already really developing those new neural pathways of a new habit. Then maybe it's 2.5 minutes the next week, and then build up, build up. So don't wait until the warning bells are going off. Start now, but start small.
I love that. And you're so right to start small. When we start big, and again, as you said, society thinks we have to do everything big, better, and biggest. And I'm often asking people to scale things back because really what we want and the body wants is balance. So just
Yes.
because something's good doesn't mean more of it is better, right? And
And the
so
sustainability of it.
exactly, exactly. And so starting with that baby step so you can create that small habit so that it's
Yeah.
doable and you get that win. And you already
Yes.
start to notice that you're feeling better and you're looking forward to your 1 minute of meditation and how calming that is on the mind. And then the
Yeah.
next week you extend it. So I love that. So if people want to get hold of you and work with you, what's the best way for them to be able to do that?
Go to ibringcalm.com. That will get you signed up for my free monthly self-hypnosis masterclass. We do it once a month. And if you can't make it, we record it and send it out. But also with that, I send you 5 of the techniques from my book. In my book, Goodbye Anxiety, Hello Freedom, there's 35 simple techniques to calm stress and anxiety. Not because you need to learn all 35, but because one size doesn't fit all. So you peruse the table of contents, which I intentionally put in alphabetical order. So you don't even have to read the whole book, which is very thin, but it's so you can just peruse through, find 2 or 3 of the techniques that's like, oh, I think that's doable. And then practice them, practice them, practice them. Because when you practice them on a daily basis, and again, they're all very, very short because, and I wrote that back in 2018 before the world sped up even more as it is now, right? So when they're simple, you can do them throughout the day instead of the, aside from don't start with 20 minutes because it's usually not sustainable for us, but the thinking to me of, oh, do 20 minutes in the morning and then power through the day so you can do your 20 minutes at night. If you offload it a little bit at a time throughout the day, you're not going to have that compulsion of, oh, I can't wait to get home to open the bottle or to dive into the bag of chips. Forget about meditation, right? So empty it out during the day on an everyday basis.
Beautiful. I love that. And I have all of your contact information in the show notes, along with your free gift of your monthly self-hypnosis masterclasses and the 5 techniques, etc., and access to your book. So love all that you share because this is so important in today's world.
It
And
is.
as you say, no one size fits all. So what one person loves for their stress release techniques, somebody else is like, I just can't do that. And they will
Right.
choose something else. So I love that you've also put it all in alphabetical order and made it really easy for people. And people will appreciate that because people do want ease. So before we wrap the show, is there any last piece of wisdom that you would like to share with the audience today?
I just want to reinforce, start where you are and start with that first small baby step. And then adding on to it, accountability. If you, like, how many times, okay, we can't see you. So if you're listening to the podcast and you've ever made a New Year's resolution, raise your hand. Now, keep your hand up if you've kept it. 93% of people just dropped their hands, right? That's the statistic, that 93% of people
Mm-hmm.
don't keep their New Year's
Mm-hmm.
resolutions. If, however, you tell someone you're going to do something, there's a 65% increase that you'll actually be successful.
Yes.
If you take it a step farther and make an appointment with an accountability buddy, your chance of success goes up to 95%. So find a buddy, say, hey, let's meditate for 1 minute every morning for the next 7 days and check in each day. There's a much greater chance that you'll actually succeed at it. How cool is that? Simple.
Very simple. And those stats are so true and love that you shared that. So thank you so much for coming on the show, Stephanie, today, sharing your story, which has, so much inspiration for others to know that they too can heal, as well as how you help people in their journey, and for sharing all of your wisdom. It's been wonderful having this conversation with you. And
Thank
thank
you.
you to my audience for tuning in each and every week, listening to these episodes and taking responsibility and prioritizing your health and your mindset, the thoughts that are running through your mind, and knowing that you can control them. You can choose to get into that place of curiosity and be open to the possibilities. And if you know someone that needs to hear this podcast, please share it with them.